Raise the unnamed mother, 'cause daddy's leading a shady life. Genius. The hell? Where am I?
Don't you mean what?
No, I don't. Larfleeze?
Greetings, geek. The question you should be asking yourself is, what's inside the orange box? And the answer is you.
I don't get it.
Like the orange box, it had a bunch of games in it. The first Portal.
My God, that's a dated reference. 11 years ago, and I haven't seen you in 8 years since I last reviewed the Larfleeze Christmas special. So how's about you?
Silence, fool! As master of the orange light, I'm going to contain you in this box until you review the first 6 issues of my ongoing series.
It's not an ongoing, it only lasted 12 issues, and it was canceled 5 years ago. Why is every reference in this opening so dated?
I refuse to pay for streaming services.
Got it. Well, I'm not doing it. You may be the master of greed, but you're not going to force me to review your out-of-date comic book.
You do know this is a Patreon request review, right?
So on today's episode, we're going to review Larfleeze issues 1 through 6.
Enjoy the show!
Oh, whoa. Hey, I told him I'm not spending a whole episode bathed in orange light. It's not my color. I'm a winter. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Comic Book Issues. I'm your host, Brian Heinz. The Last Angry Geek. A name that makes even less sense than Larfleeze. But just who, or what, is the mythical Orange Lantern? Introduced in Green Lantern Volume 4, Issue 25, at a time when we were learning about all the different colored cores, Larfleeze is the immortal resident of the Vega sector. Since the orange light was the embodiment of greed, Larfleeze would not share his power with anyone else. His entire Orange Lantern Corps were specters of aliens that he'd killed and then resurrected as orange light constructs. But the wealth and power were never enough to sate him, and it seemed like the only thing he truly desired was the family he'd lost to slavers. In the short-lived comic Threshold, Larfleeze acquires a butler named Stargrave, but loses his treasure hoard and control of his orange constructs after Saeed, the guardian of the universe he'd briefly enslaved to serve him, planted a subconscious command in his mind that caused him to destroy everything he owned, including his orange power battery. Oh, it's here that we pick up with our hero? Villain? Tick-infested goofball with the temper of a 3-year-old.
Hey! Yeah, that's fair.
Today we review Larfleeze, written by Keith Giffen and J.M. DeMatteis, and drawn by Scott Collins. This is issues 1 through 6. Larfleeze and Stargrave, his butler, are trapped on an asteroid, abandoned by their allies and drifting towards entropic destruction at the edge of the universe, with only 15 minutes of a charge left on his ring. The Orange Lantern has lost everything. With no possessions left, not even his power battery, he's decided to end it all. Stargrave tries to motivate him to escape and take his trusty butler with him, but this provokes Larfleeze into recounting his life story. Born to a large, apathetic family of farmers, his planet was invaded and Larfleeze enslaved. He had a wife and children also enslaved, but eventually decided to free just himself. In order to escape, he hid in a corpse wagon. Oh, he was not dead yet.
Sir, I represent Eric Idle, and I'm here to serve you with an injunction barring you from singing any further songs for the Spamalot.
Well, what about any songs from the Ruddles?
Yes, that would be fine.
I don't know any. Having escaped the mine he'd been imprisoned in, Larfleeze sneaks back into and leads a slave revolt, using their bloody uprising as a chance to escape the asteroid they were all trapped on. Larfleeze covers how his gang stole the Parallax entity from the Guardians of the Universe, and this led to him coming to Okara in the Vega sector. There, he discovered and was seduced by the orange light. Killing his partners in crime and forging an orange ring, Larfleeze became Agent Orange, the Orange Lantern. Orange, you glad I didn't say orange too many times? After much berating, the butler finally gets the time out of the Orange Lantern. It's 15 minutes past his ring's expiration. His shields are still up, even without his power battery to recharge the ring. Larfleeze is a living orange battery. Then a giant blue wolf made of energy emerges out of the end of the universe and swallows Larfleeze whole. It then explodes as Larfleeze blows his way out of its guts. Moments later, a large blue feral entity with another wolf and slaves carrying troves of treasure emerges out of the entropic barrier at the end of the universe. He is Nodens, the Lord of the Hunt. We present to you Brian Heinz, Lord of the Dance. This would be even more impressive if we shot me from the waist down, but then how many times have I said that and it wasn't true?
Sir, I represent Michael Flatley.
All right. Larfleeze is instantly in love with the Laird's treasure and confirms that yes, he killed the wolf. And Nodin's next. Larfleeze blasts the Laird of the Hunt, and so pleased to own something again, dry humps the Laird's staff. The long pole, not his slaves. Meanwhile, the remaining wolf can talk. Lou, that's his name, apologizes to Stargrave for slobbering all over him, but he must serve his master. Stargrave, a native of Kolu, the home of Brainiac, understands what that's like. However, regardless of good manners, once one of their masters wins, the other one of them is toast. Nodens brings out a new weapon set up by Herb, a fully trained and certified lackey. Lou explains that beyond the energy barrier of this universe is another universe, but Nodens and his kin, the gods of that universe, have more or less wiped out all life there and are now looking to expand. Nodens at least has a sense of honor. His 5 siblings are even worse, and they're all here in this reality now. The fight seems over when Lou bites down on Larfleeze, and Larfleeze flings Lou away. Nodens finally wins by wrapping Larfleeze up in green energy and tasering him. The Laird turns his attention to Stargrave, who Herb quickly points out is the Orange Lantern's butler, so he finds himself packed up with the rest of Nodens' stuff. 6 weeks later, we find Stargrave, although imprisoned, acting as Nodens' chief of staff after Lou put in a good word for him. The Laird is setting up his base camp. Meanwhile, Herb wants to know why Stargrave isn't dead. All of Nodens' creatures are altered to survive on hostile planets like this. Without Larfleeze's protection, Stargrave, who'd wrongly assumed that Nodens was protecting him, should be dead. The Laird summons a massive fortress, his home. He orders Stargrave to begin stuffing and mounting the various creatures that he's killed. Realizing that as Nodens' first kill, Larfleeze will be at the very bottom of the bucket, he dives through the carry-on and retrieves the Orange Lantern. But he's caught. A voice demands to know what he's doing. A blue woman explains that she's the one who's been keeping him alive, and he's about to ruin everything by reviving Larfleeze. When pressed, she reveals herself to be Senna, the Wanderer.
Oh, she's the Wanderer. Oh, she's the Wanderer.
Sir, I represent the people of Earth who have taken out this restraining order against you, prohibiting you from any further singing.
Have we run this gag into the ground yet?
Yes. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm off to the land of non-Union Simpsons sound-alike characters.
Have fun at Cartoon Network. The Wanderer is part of the House of Toth Dan. They ruled an entire universe until infighting destroyed their home and reduced the family to the 6 now in this reality. With her ability to see through time and space, she found the portal to our dimension. But since her mind is constantly overwhelmed with all the information she's assaulted with, she forgot where it was. Her family imprisoned and tortured her for about 500,000 years to extract the creation point energy that she'd absorbed and use it to build a portal to our realm. Well, she doesn't hold a grudge, though. She'd have done the same thing to them. She's been keeping Stargrave alive because when she came to this dimension, she met Larfleeze, who agreed to sell Stargrave to her as a butler and guide, but then kidnapped him back before the Wanderer could collect him. It's a dream come true to be rid of Larfleeze, until she explains he'll need to become gender neutral lest his natural urges for her take over. She is a sort of cosmic multi-tool that will either castrate him or just turn him into a female outright. Deciding he's better off where he is, he tries to revive Larfleeze. Hearing the ruckus, the Laird sends Herb to investigate, only for him to get blown back by a blast of orange energy. Larfleeze is up and angry. They have a massive fight. The Wanderer simply wants what's hers, and she's willing to pay a fair price. But Larfleeze doesn't give. He takes! Can you imagine a rage-filled buffoon covered in orange who goes around screwing people out of what they're owed simply to placate his own enormous ego? I mean, what can you do with an orange twit like that? I mean, besides make him president. Nodens sees that his sister Senna is on board when she's blown into his throne room. This fight is over her butler, but wait, Stargrave is Nodens' butler, so now it's a 3-way brawl. The Laird knows Larfleeze isn't powerful enough to kill him. That may be true, so the Orange Lantern sends him on a one-way trip across the universe. Lou now has run of the base and starts to suggest Larfleeze take off when he's blown to smithereens by Senna. She's taking Stargrave and leaving. And Larfleeze is surprisingly okay with that, as long as he's got a big base to loot. Stargrave begs his Orange Master to save him. Well, he never said he wouldn't. While he's looting his Orange Lantern Corps, the imprisoned souls he's collected over the years will fight the Wanderer for him. But energy and matter are easy enough for her to control, and she restores the entire Corps to life and escapes with Stargrave. The Orange Lantern Corps quickly turns on their murderer, Larfleeze. In space, the Wanderer agrees to leave Stargrave's manhood where it is for now if he acts as her guide to this new universe. Larfleeze has been sent crashing into a planet. What are they so upset about? Well, the Orange Lanterns didn't much like his killing them and enslaving their minds inside the Orange Lantern. They think he's mocking them, but the mouthless Clipt understands that the orange energy has warped his thinking, and Larfleeze simply no longer has any empathy. He tries to blow them up in a volcano, but they wrangle him back down to the planet, reminding him that they can control his orange energy every bit as much as he can. The Orange Lanterns offer him a life of slavery to them if he surrenders, but he was a slave once, never again. Meanwhile, the Wanderer is exploring her new universe with all the attention of a 4-year-old, as Stargrave points out star after star after star after star after star. Her attention, after billions of years of seeing through time and alternate dimensions, isn't what it once was.
I dig it, man. Although I never needed to use mushrooms or lick toes to destroy my attention span. YouTube and Netflix have already done that. In fact, I doubt I have the focus to finish this seg...
They land on a planet that has been conquered by her sister Dirge. It's sort of a gothic steampunk look populated by Victorian-style robots. Dirge trades in misery and has a sort of mummified glam rock look going on. On an idyllic planet, Scooch and Tingle, two gosh darn nice blue caterpillars, are appreciating how gosh darn nice their lives are when several orange meteors fall out of the sky. Oops! Looks like they're doomed. Larfleeze pulls himself out of a crater. It's time to re-kill him some lanterns. But he's no match for all the Orange Lanterns and gets him an old-style beatdown. The bandaged warp wrap is about to decapitate Larfleeze when Clipta stops him. The kill is hers! No, the kill belongs to Globulus! No, Sound Dancer! But the Snake Orange Lantern notices something. Their rings are humming around Larfleeze. They should need a charge from an orange battery, but there isn't one nearby. Except maybe there is. They will keep Larfleeze enslaved so they can stay alive existing on his orange energy. They are all in one, finally free. Well, free to torture Larfleeze. He wakes up in a cage demanding to know where his ring is. The Orange Lantern Corps is arguing over who gets to torture their former master first. The Octo-Elephant Tamil Tane knows that their families are dead, so why not make a new start on this dead world? The others don't want to waste their energy reclaiming it. Well, no! That'll be Larfleeze's job. Pfft, that's beneath him! But the Lanterns aren't interested in his opinion and shock him in his cage. Meanwhile, on Dirge's planet, renamed Sorrow, Stargrave isn't really having the best time in the suicidal rich planetary aura. He's again trying to extract himself from the Wanderer with 10 good reasons when she goes off on the number 10. Her spotty memory aligns and she remembers her purpose, the Council of 10. She came to warn her siblings. She flies off, stranding Stargrave. Larfleeze is pretty crispy but adamant. He'll never be a slave again and pulls a Westworld, biting off one of his ex-victim turned current tormentor's fingers.
Where are you?
I am in a dream.
And is this your first dream?
No, the dream comes in a cycle.
And would you say it's a tangerine dream?
No, I would say it's an orange dream.
Then where are you?
I am in an orange dreamsicle.
These stupid delights have moronic ends.
Sound Dancer is trying to kill him when Warp Wrap reminds her they need him alive to power their rings. The Snake, Leech, Orange Lantern, separates them and they again order Larfleeze to work. Dirge is not seeing the urgency in Senna's warnings. The Council of 10 is the House of Tooth Dan's oldest enemies, and they followed them here. The Wanderer is worried that the Council's decision to follow the House here means that they're becoming more organized and thus a credible threat. Stargrave is trying to book passage off-planet, but with no destination in mind, he gets flagged by security when the Wanderer reclaims him. They take off, and she explains the Council is similar to the Guardians of the Universe, except malevolent and capable of wiping out all reality. Tossed in a dungeon, Larfleeze hears a voice berating him. It's Mama! Or rather, a hallucination of his mother. He's missed her, or has he? She reminds him that he's hundreds of billions of years old, his memory corrupted by the orange energy. The story of his enslavement and a family that loves him were just that. A story, one he told himself for comfort. He has a brief flashback of his life, betrayal after betrayal of those closest to him. He was an informer, a snitch. His greed was always supreme. No, it's a lie! Larfleeze freed his people. Didn't he? The Orange Lanterns are examining Larfleeze. Every cell on his body is saturated with orange energy. They're still bound to him as he's the only source of power they have now. As he lays unconscious, Larfleeze dreams of wealth. Naked and reunited with everything he's ever owned until his mother returns. Although she again reminds him she's just a construct of his subconscious and not really his mother. Without her help, he'll spend an eternity as the Lantern's slave. He's a living power battery, something we've only heard 1,000,000 times in the last 5 issues, but he has no ring. Mom explains that when he killed the aliens who became his Orange Lantern Corps, he resurrected them, creating their costumes and rings. Since he made those rings, he can uncreate them. She slaps him awake. Hey, are you tired of never being awake enough? Tired of being tired? Tired of not having your face hurt all the time? You need Fist Alert. Whether you're getting tired or being placed in a dream state by your vengeful ex-minions, simply activate Fist Alert, and one of our helpful aliens will come down and punch or slap you awake. It's the safe, gentle, violent way to wake you up.
I've never felt such pain in my face.
Fist Alert! Warning, not all aliens have opposable thumbs, fingers, or even hands. Some aliens have appendages ending in razor-sharp talons that will turn your head into a bony coleslaw. Fist Alert is not liable for the accidental coleslawing of your head. Larfleeze wakes up breaking his chains. The Lanterns go to attack but realize their rings are gone. He's the Lord of the Orange Light, and he's back, baby! Meanwhile, the Wanderer and Stargrave have found the house's enemy, the Council of 10, a group of giants encased in sarcophagi. Actually, Stargrave notices only 9 members of the Council of 10. Well, that's because they could never agree on a 10th member, but that's the point. A group of all-powerful indecisives? That level of power could roll across the universe and destroy galaxies. Senna wants to infiltrate the Council to find out if they're going to reform an army to move against the House of Toothed Dan. The best way to do that is to enlist in the army, using her powers to disguise herself in Stargrave naturally. They can't just show up out of nowhere and offer to fight for the Council, but the Wanderer loves it. That's exactly what they'll do. Larfleeze demands the Lanterns return to serving him. Speaking for the group, Calypta says they'd rather die, and he smashes her, just not fatally. He picks up Glomulus and demands to know where is his ring. Before he can get an answer, he's attacked by Cleebus, whom the others made wait in a horse stall. He still has his ring until he doesn't. He throws chains around the necks or whatever of his core. They swear they'll never serve him again, but rather than kill them, he'll just leave them chained up here, powerless on a dead planet to remember the good times when they once served a living god. He threatens to kill Calypta unless she tells him where the ring is, but Warp Wrap won't let him. He loves her! He explains he can summon his ring at any time. The ring flies out of the ocean and Larfleeze is at full power. The Orange Lanterns can starve to death for all he cares, and he flies off as Calypta rejects Warp Wrap. It's Glomulus she loves. But Glomulus is an asexual self-replicator. As Larfleeze goes to find Stargrave, the Oranges will sort out their romance issues later. First, they need to escape the planet. Then, they can hunt down Larfleeze once and for all. The Orange Lantern is now more powerful than ever. Fortunately, he placed a tag on Stargrave without his knowing, and flies across the universe to get back what is his.
Woof. And that's the first 6 issues of Larfleeze. It's a bit of a slog, admittedly, as D'Amatis and Giffen really love dialogue. It's where they put most of their humor. While it wasn't decent enough to read month to month, when I had to reread all 6 issues in a row for this review, it did take a while to get through. So, was this a good series? A fun series? Should you run out and buy all the copies you find and hoard them forever in a dank cave on an alien world? Let's take a closer look at Larfleeze.
Well, my main problem with Larfleeze is, like I mentioned earlier, it's a very overwritten book. It takes quite a while to get through an entire issue because of all the long conversations, as that's where D'Amatis and Giffen like to fit in the humor rather than with sight gags. I won't say it's a badly written book, but I do think that the long dialogue slows down the book's pace, and that hurts the comic more than it helps it. For instance, every issue needs a certain amount of recapping to cover what previously happened so new readers can pick it up. This book overdid it as it kept hitting the same points over and over again in every issue. For instance, the first 6 issues are relentless in telling us that Larfleeze is now his own power battery. Again, not awful when you read the book from month to month, but I really got sick of them hitting that point over and over in this collected format. Similarly, we're constantly hearing about how Larfleeze won't be a slave again. Yeah, most people don't want to be slaves. We don't need to hear over and over again about how Larfleeze didn't like the experience. We can take it for granted. As for the characters themselves, Larfleeze might be the only underwritten character. He's not interested in long conversations with whimsical wordplay. He gets into fights. He indulges in self-pity. His extremely egotistical worldview is one of the more amusing aspects of this book. He can do no wrong. Everything and everyone is simply in service to him. Stargrave, however, is another source of frustration in the book, primarily because it's his job to be frustrated. He's the only voice of reason in a book populated with the unreasonable. He's constantly trying to appeal to people's better nature, but he's never able to reach them because that better nature is not there. The Orange Lanterns themselves don't have much personality. They argue over who gets to do the thing that they all want to do, but otherwise they're of uniform purpose. They're only different from each other visually. And frankly, they feel like they're filler, keeping Larfleeze away from the family while they set up the Council of Ten as the family's opponents. I'd rather they were kept for a separate arc after the family was dealt with, but given that the writer wanted to get rid of the Spectral Lanterns, and this book only had 12 issues to its name, I guess it makes sense that they did it halfway through. I did get a chuckle at the end when they all admit to the convoluted love triangles, or not in Glomulus's case. The family itself was another case of one-note characters. Dirge is depressed, Wanderer is flighty. Actually, Leord is the best rounded of the group and a decent opponent for Larfleeze. But again, it feels like their story is being overly stretched out. I know it all got wrapped up in the final 6 issues of this series, but the first half of this book feels like 3 issues worth of story dragged across 6, with the difference being made up by the repeated plot points and emotional statements over and over, and a group of uninteresting villains that acted as filler for the main protagonists. Scott Cullen's art is decent. I don't really have anything bad to say about it. That said, the visual aspect of this book was put on the back burner to the overwritten dialogue. Larfleeze isn't a terrible book, but it's best as a month-to-month read as single issues. In a collection where you have to read all the issues back-to-back, it's a bit much.
Larfleeze isn't a terrible book, but it definitely doesn't hit its full potential during this run. I think with a little streamlining, it could have been a much better title than it was, but what we were left with was a bloated mess that had a few gems shining through, much like Larfleeze's treasure hoard. I give Larfleeze issues 1 through 6 2 out of 5 stars.
No! 2 stars isn't enough! I want 5!
Fine, you can have 5. Anything to get rid of you.
So, Larfleeze has the best comic book ever?
Sure, now can you take this ring back and just leave?
Why does everyone Larfleeze gives a ring to say that so alone?
You know, I may be the last angry geek, but even I wouldn't marry an orange buffoon with too much power for his own good. Until next time, everyone, this is Comic Book Issues, and I'm your host, Brian Heinz, the Last Angry Geek.